Welcome, everybody. My name is Ben Langwith. I'm the college coordinator, new boys director for Santa Rosa United. This is the second version of the college guidance that we are offering for the boys club members. The first meeting focused on the younger boys, the 9th and 10th graders. And this is focused more on the 11th and 12th graders and graduating seniors. Where we're going to start is just intro and general info. Basically video, if you can show your video, that's great. Background noise, minimize and share in the chat if you can. Tonight, I'm going to be doing most of the meeting. Josh Sterling, who has a lot of experience, and his son Carson and Parker playing the club will be helping. And the rest of the presentation, later on the presentation, Juan Arias, who is a coach in the club and works at Santa Rosa JC, will be joining us and kind of sharing a little bit more information about the junior college pathway options. Very general, but like how to enroll, what your options are for as far as securing funds to pay for the JC. He's a great resource, and we'll be looking to use Juan more at another date and time, specifically for the 02 and 03 boys, and also some 04s who are interested in attending the JC. So that will be presentation probably 3 in a week or 2 from now. We'll start with my role as a college coordinator, just so it's clear to everybody. If you weren't here last 2 weeks ago, it's basically to help guide and inform, provide information on the college planning and processes. Communicate and assist, clarify the what and how of the college planning process as a potential college soccer recruitment, promote and advocate, and inform on other resources. The college committee is still working. SRU coaches, they will be joining us later in the presentation. They're in a tryout meeting as the younger kids have tryouts this coming week. So around 8:30 or a little bit after, hopefully Tyler, Jordan, and Schwan can join us. And then we're going to cover a little bit the tech resources. I know I talked to the 04s today a little about the VOT, GS, and huddle when we were on the field. So that will be a little bit later in the presentation. The first thing, and I'll fly a little bit quicker in the first little bit about why over the first slides. So why play college soccer? So there's the fun, there's the travel, the make new friends, continuation of soccer development, continuation of education, and responsibility. The first slides are stuff that the older players in the club have been presented before by Lee, things that they may already be aware of. If at any point we do have questions, please do drop them in the chat, and we'll cover those when we can. So what is college soccer? Everybody's familiar with the NCAA for the most part. Division ones would be your Stanfords, your Cals. D2 is SF State, Dominican, Chico State, Holy Name, Sonoma State falls into that category. In Division 3, you think of UC Santa Cruz and a lot of the higher academic schools. There is a clear difference. Division 3 does not give out scholarships, and we'll cover that more soon. There's the NAIA, which I am not as familiar with, honestly, but Menlo would participate in that. There's the NJCAA, which is Santa Rosa JC, and then there's the CCCAA, which is Santa Rosa JC is a part of as well. This is a very important slide, be honest with yourself. So first thing, watch college games on TV if you can. You can come in person to Sonoma State, Dominican, Santa Rosa, Napa JC. If you want to travel a little bit more, Stanford is a great environment to watch a game, as is UC Berkeley. USF nights in the city are fantastic, a lot of fun. But the odds of playing D1 soccer are significantly less for male players than female players for these reasons. There's only 205 NCAA men's teams versus 336 women's teams. But U.S. male players have a better odds, over twice the odds of making NCAA 3 roster. So if you are serious about playing college soccer, and we'll go through the processes and steps to do that, where you play and what you play is by finding the right level and the right fit for you as far as school goes as well. So there are two pathways in a general sense. You have to complete high school, and we'll go over the steps to completing high school, but you either go to college or you go to JC. Juan, in the later date and time, is going to cover the JC much more in depth. I'm really looking forward to learning more about that. The straight to college pathway is a little bit more my area of expertise. Junior college, Juan will cover later date and time. Tonight, he'll do a very general overview. So what we're looking at here is the start of what we're going to go with the NCAA pathway. So that's protocols and procedure for 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th grade players. The NCAA Eligibility Center is a large part of the process. We'll cover that a little bit more in depth, and the academic requirements. So again, the first presentation we did about 2 weeks ago focused primarily on the 9th, 10th graders, more general. Now this is, again, more general, but a little more geared toward the 11th and 12th graders. So going into part 2, we're going to focus a little bit on academics and NCAA athletics, because you are a student athlete. So what is a student athlete? I'll let you read. NCAA, more than 1,100 colleges and universities. To be a member institution of the NCAA, you must follow certain protocols, guidelines, procedures about when you can train, how you conduct your program, how the school has academic standards. So it's just being a member of an organization. Everybody's familiar with NCAA football, NCAA basketball, March Madness. Soccer operates under the same general principles and ideas, but also there's certain rules and regulations about how much you can train, when you can train, so on and so on. But generally, being a student athlete has its benefits. If we're looking at academics, and this is something as 11th and 12th graders, or some of you going 10th into 11th, some of you 11th into 12th, and some of you who are in this fall somewhere in those categories. This is how you plan your high school courses to meet the 16 core course requirement. If you have not met with your high school guidance counselor recently, at the end of this academic year, I strongly suggest that your parents and you set up a meeting or a plan to go over your transcript and look at if you have been hitting these 4 times 4 equals 16 core courses, because there are graduation pathways and then there's the higher education pathway. So be very clear when you meet with your guidance counselor which pathway you're on. The younger you can switch to a higher education pathway, college pathway, the better. The later in the game, it's much more difficult when you're missing these core courses. Very briefly, as we covered this in the first presentation, 9th and 10th grade, start planning now. NCAA eligibilitycenter.org is a great resource. If you have not visited the Eligibility Center, you need to do that very soon. We'll go into more depth as we go throughout the presentation, but remember that website. You can get a free profile. Academics tie into it. If you see you're falling behind on where you need to be after meeting with your guidance counselor, you can begin to monitor the steps that you need to take. But at the end of each year, you need to be meeting with the counselor and viewing that transcript. 11th and 12th, the focus of this presentation, check with your counselor, start thinking about scheduling the SAT, ACT, update your eligibility center. 12th grade, make sure you're in the right courses for your senior year. I know some people kind of tend to take a lighter course load their senior year. If you're missing anything, now is the final time to make sure that if you have the ability to play college athletics, that you are going to be a final qualifier, which at a later date and time, again, we'll cover. These are the Division I academic standards. And at the end of this presentation in a couple of days, we'll email out the recorded Zoom once it's cleaned up. and you can review this if you're not clear on anything. Obviously, all the resources listed as websites you can visit if you have the slide deck in the Zoom. So we suggest going back and reviewing anything that is unclear. If you have a pressing question, please drop it into the chat. Sorry about that. Grades are obviously a huge part of it. 4.0 or 3.5, 72% versus 94% is a fairly big deal. Even though 3.0 and above, 51% of schools can recruit you based on your GPA. It all varies what you're aiming for and what you are currently hitting as a high school student. So keep that in mind, that it's never too late to keep pushing the GPA up. Core courses, again, you can review the slide deck. Not core courses would be the arts, the music, the physical eds, and welding, things like that. If you're interested in doing JC pathway, those things are okay. 1 or 2 is fine, but just make sure you're hitting the 4x4. Again, back to the Eligibility Center, eligibilitycenter.org. If you have never visited, visit it, register for a free profile. It's not too late. Very, very simple. At some point, you will pay if you're considering making a visit to a school, but to start, a free profile is for everybody. Very simple if you're serious about the college soccer pathway. So now looking forward after the general, everybody thinks about scholarships, talks about scholarships. There's some key numbers in here. 2% of high school athletes are awarded athletic scholarships, and that is not the general dreamed about full ride to your school. We will cover coming soon what aid can look like. Scholarships are a way, but not a given, and sometimes the perception is that it's an easy, simple thing and everybody gets it, but it's just not the case. Division III school cannot give you athletic aid. They can give you academic aid, but that is something to consider. So scholarships compared to tuition, this is an infographic I found online. So if your school costs 24 to 25 grand and you are an athlete, the average athletic scholarship is 10,000. I don't think that's entirely accurate when you base across everything, maybe, but some are going to $60,000 schools, maybe getting 20. Some people go to 25,000 and get $500 to $1,000. So when a money conversation eventually could happen, it's not what you think it typically is going to be. And that's what I'm being very honest about, unless you're a top player. So to offset a cost of attending higher education to play sports, counting on an athletic scholarship is not the best way to plan or think about it. It's nice if it happens, but it does not happen for everybody. More and more in the college soccer, especially on the men's side, committing a spot to a player is a fantastic thing to be offered. And then over the next 2 to 3 years, especially in the Division II realm, you have the ability to increase your athletic scholarship if possible, but being realistic about what could, should, want to happen is very important. It's not as much money as you may be led to believe. Some considerations and steps. Josh, if you want to jump in on this at any time, I would love for your input and advice on these type of things.
Yeah, I can rattle off. I've seen your slides. As far as paying for college, Ben's touched upon a few different things. Basically, you have 2 different types of financial aid that you can get at a school. You have merit aid, which means you're good at something. So that would actually be a scholarship for playing soccer, large, small, or in between. But also things like you're a very good student. Maybe there's something else in leadership that you've done, but basically you bring something to that school. And so then they provide you merit, as you could be a multimillionaire or on the lower end of income, and you can still qualify. It has nothing to do with income and assets. So that's merit aid. There's tons and tons of merit aid available at private schools. It's much, much more difficult to find in the public system, the UCs and the Cal States. And then you have need-based financial aid. That's what Ben has up here on the screen now, which is basically you fill out the FAFSA or the CSS profile at some elite private schools. And then that is based on income and assets. And that can be divided up into free money. And then the other ITAL is divided up into debt and a job, which isn't a bad thing, by the way. It can still get you through college, but those are loans. And work study being that they give you a job on campus to sort of offset some of your tuition. But those are the main ways, other than the obvious, and that's out of your own pocket. But those are ways that other people's money can pay for your college education. Is that good, Ben?
Perfect. So we'll keep moving on. We talked about the FAFSA process a little bit. Once you get into your senior year, you should apply for the FAFSA. Studentaid.gov has more information on the FAFSA, but familiarize yourself with the word and what it means. This is just a simple infographic on how much you can get, how to create the ID. Very simple again, how to create a FSA ID. So now we're looking at soccer in school, moving closer to what I think you're all the most interested to hear about. So we're going to get into the TGS soon, but when you're looking at a school, the quote at the bottom, what if you broke your leg in the first training, then what? So we talked together, and Josh, again, at any moment, feel free to jump in. We start talking about selecting schools that you're interested in you want to go to. You put a list together of important criteria: the programs you're interested, the weather in the area, location, what kind of athletics team it is, the level, the size of the campus, 2,000 undergraduates, 25,000 undergraduates. Is it in the town? Is it in the heart of San Francisco, in Berkeley? Is it out rural like Chico? And how much is it going to cost? The affordability. Is this something that you're willing to commit to and take on? What is a reasonable amount of debt for your family? No debt for your family? What makes the most sense to you? So these are all criteria to be considered when you're looking at schools and doing your first little bit of hunting. And if you're lucky enough to, and this applies whether you're going to play soccer or not. And if you broke your leg and say you go to this school and the coach says, hey, I want you to play here, and you don't really like the school and you break your leg, like you're stuck there for a year. Like, do you really want to be in this place? So that kind of mental game of asking yourself, like, no matter what, if soccer ended tomorrow, would I be happy here? Is kind of a good way to frame the question.
Hey, Ben, if you can, I'm going to say a quick word and then have you tell a quick story. But in 15 or 20 years helping kids get recruited, I put a ton of emphasis on this part of it. This is the essence of college recruiting. It is not, I'm just going to go to Surf Cup and hope someone sees me, or just write a bunch of schools that I think are going to be at the event with no thought or even just little thought on where you actually want to get a college education. Now, if you're a freshman or a sophomore, then cast a wide net, write 100 schools, write everyone that shows up to Surf Cup, start to put a little thought in. But, as the end of the sophomore year, definitely by the time you're a junior and a senior, like there should be real reason that your list is the way that it is based on all these things that Ben's talking about. I've had a ton of student athletes that I've worked with that, on the second part, and that's what I want Ben, you to tell a little bit. Maybe share with them your story, because I know you transferred.
Yeah. So for me, I did both sides of this. I was a very good youth player, grew up in Iowa, got recruited by a bunch of top, like big D1 schools. And I ended up at University of Kentucky, and really cool school, pretty nice campus, good area. The team was not the best fit for me, but I was there to play soccer. And then it became a situation where I didn't want to play soccer anymore. And so I stepped away from the team. And then I was stuck in a school where I was like, hey, this is not the right place for me. But I now really want to continue playing soccer. So I did my research the second time around, spent multiple hours looking at schools, campuses, whatever, all things considered. And I found Sonoma State, emailed the coach, hey, I think I can play at your level. The school looks great. I'd love. Came to Sonoma State, got a chance, made the team, had a very successful career, loved it, and haven't left Sonoma County since. So the mistakes I made the first time around, I corrected the second time, and it worked out in an ideal situation long term. But if you can avoid the transferring process and be where you want to be in minute one, and by considering all the criteria, I think that's the best plan of action for everybody. So it does happen, and what might feel like a great fit maybe may not end up being that way. But really, really think about these things when you're searching for schools. And even if you not sure early on, cast a wide net and add them in there. And then as you learn more about more and more schools, chop some schools from your list. Say, hey, that it'd be cool to play for that school, but maybe it's not the right fit. It's too expensive, or like, yeah, it's too in the middle of a downtown. I wouldn't like that. I want to be more like, in the country. So get a feel, and you kind of narrow where you want to spend a sizable chunk of, 4 to 5 years of some of the best years of your life. So these things are super important. So all the thing on the left of your screen, technique, insight, personality, amazing, must have them. But at the end of the day, college coaches are looking for good people who can play soccer. And what that means to one school can mean something completely different to another school based on their style of play and what they're trying to do. And that's what they're out there looking for, is like, do you fit your style? But when we get to the final piece, if someone's asking about me or asking about you to me, is he a good person? How does he act off the field? What is his behavior like? Is he responsible? Can you count on him? Like, you must be able to play, no doubt, no question. But the personality and humanistic aspect cannot be understated. And ultimately, if I'm going to go to bat for you at some point in the recruiting process, I've got to stand behind my word and say, yes, this is a fine young man who's an excellent soccer player, and I think he can do the job for your school. So very important to consider as we keep rolling along. So a little simple acronym, GAME. Do you have the grades? Do you have the ability? Are you motivated? Is it something you really want to do, or is it something you feel like you're supposed to do? Like, is that how you want to spend your, late teens, early 20s? And then exposure, like, is it ECNL games, showcases games, ID camps, etc.?
Hey, Ben, on the motivation thing for everyone, I think it's important for you to understand too, like Ben's talking about, are you motivated to play and, have all the time, allocated to soccer when you're in college? But there's also, are you willing to put in the work in high school, which Ben is telling you what needs to be done as the process? Because getting recruited to play college soccer is not on Santa Rosa United. They need to obviously provide the exposure and the platform, but ultimately it is a player-driven process with help along the way of your parents, and help along the way with your coaches, and help along the way with from Ben. But it's a lot of work. It's all the research for all the things that Ben just talked about. So that, it's important that you're motivated and willing to do that if you want the best outcome.
Cannot be understated. Like, speaking in a general sense, not specific to my particular other job, the ability for some young players to fill out a form that might be asking them to do and they don't complete it is a little bit wild. So are you not just simple, football, soccer work on the field, but like some administration doing For example, we'll get into TGS, and that's basically the first example that's fantastic. So we talked about IDing schools. Leading into the summer, we'll get more into how you make contact with coaches. And when we get into the TGS presentation, showcases this summer. So we'll get into that more in our next presentation. If a college coach sees you play, he may reach out to you, and that's why the TGS profile and some other the communication aspects are going to be so important. And then at some point, myself is involved in the process, and it could be your club coach, whether that's John, Tyler, Jordan, whoever it may be, and then I'm involved at some point as well. So we talked quickly on the field today for the 04s, and it's something as a club that we've had discussions about recently on a high level, our tech resources. So we have, this is again just my role, just to make it clear one last time before we go into this. We have VO, TGS, and Huddle. All three I were not that familiar with 2.5 weeks ago. In the last 2 weeks, I spent quite a bit of time trying to get a feel for how they work. And I think they all have very good value to each member in the club who's in these ages in the college recruitment, and also younger players as well. But just across the board, they're good resources, and you're all very fortunate to have access to them. Now, your bit is how you as a player interact with these tech resources. And like anything, I know you guys all have Insta, Snapchat, what all these things. You would not be good at Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat if you did not spend time with them. And it's the same thing with these three resources. Like, you have to be in the program with a working login, interfacing, and we'll talk about these ideas of rapid prototypes and taking little bets, where you say, hey, for 20 minutes, I'm going to go on Huddle, and I'm going to try to make the best highlight tape I can make. I'm going to spend 20 minutes on TGS cleaning up the information on my profile so that it's clean. I'm going to go into VO, and I'm going to watch 20 minutes of a game and try to find a clip that maybe I want to turn into a highlight on Huddle. So as we go in, TGS, we'll do a few weeks from now in the series that we want to keep doing with the college guidance, a specific TGS event where we hopefully bring somebody in from TGS. We met with the TGS staff this week, and we got a better overview. We have an account now where we can see how you see it, because we have admin accounts. Now we have a player account that Josh and I have access to, and that we're going to create basically a fake dummy profile so we know how the process works in and out. But at the end of the day, it's you going in and working with it. But you get the player profile. There's a great college search engine basically built into the TGS system, which once you're in, you can interface and mess with it a little bit. Again, we'll do another presentation. There's a recruiting resource center, keeps you on track, checklists, very, very cool stuff. And then communication allows you to create email templates. You can just, change names, email the coaches. Very, very simple, awesome resource. Again, we'll spend more time with it in the future. Tonight's not the night, but a big ask that we put out to every player in these 11th and 12th grade and throughout the club, and even the 9th and 10th, is you need to go get your TGS profile working. We set a target date of now, where everybody is into TGS. If they have issues, they're letting the college coordinator and their team know, and we're working through to make sure it works, emailing TGS. That is what we're asking all players to do. So please remember that. We'll say that at the end of the presentation again. Josh, anything you want to go over on TGS?
Just that it also allows us, the staff, and your coach to actually see what you've done. So for instance, if you're communicating to college coaches through the system, Ben or your coach can go in and go, oh, look, they've written, Cal State LA 3 times. There's communication happening. So it allows for a quick overview, so they can help you. And again, that's very, very important that they can help you. And then Ben, I would just make a suggestion that perhaps the the coaches and you can go in and we can identify anyone that hasn't finished their profile by, let's say, the end of next week. And then the coaches can reach out to each player's family individually to see if they're stuck. That way we can have 100% completion.
Yeah, I think that's a great plan. So everybody who's listening, please, when this is done, if you have the time, try to get your TGS up and running. And if you're having problems, we'll start talking to coaches and get that dialogue going. Again, okay, so this is just a little bit about what we just said. Like, your role and responsibility is to complete your profile. You start interacting with the software and follow the steps and timelines, and just take small bets. Try and see how these things work. Send nice formal things, add schools, look around. Your only way you're going to learn how to do it is by doing it. So the quote at the top is from the TGS website. Video, I think, is super cool. I love it. I spent some time in there the last 2 nights. The camera views and angles are fantastic. Same thing. You can create a player profile. I now have a profile in there. I was watching a little bit of the 04s versus Deanza the other night. The export feature I think is really cool. If you have the means, I suggest you don't download to your computer because the video files are so large. But if you can buy an external hard drive and just save all your games on your own external hard drive, when you're 27, 30 years old and you want to look back at your Santa Rosa United games, you'll have copies of them. A really cool thing for parents to, hold on to and help your kids with. If you don't know how to do that, simple YouTube video will tell you how to do it. There's resources in the web base. It's like vo.com, I believe. And really cool. So again, go on there, mess around, start to figure things out, sign up for your profile. Not much as a priority as TGS, but if you have the time and interest, I highly suggest it. Same thing again. There's a link there to learn about the player benefits. Little quote from the guys: VO makes me feel like I'm a bit of a pro player watching yourself on TV. Again, make small bets. Like, just try things and see how it works. I don't think you can delete with your player accounts games, so don't worry about that. Really cool. Huddle, I didn't end up getting to finish the text on it, so I think it's still the VO one. But I spent a little bit of time in Huddle, and it's the same stuff. Like, go practice making a highlight tape. Just have fun with it. And if it's terrible, so what? Who cares? You don't have to share it with anybody. It's on you. I know Schwann's daughter Janae is very good at this, and then eventually one of your players in your team will get good at it, and they can help the other players. It's a fun thing.
Hey, Ben. Oh,
yeah.
Maybe you're going to do it right here. I was just going to talk about, if you don't mind talking about, perhaps, I think one of the struggles is some of the uploads getting to be able to be in a place where the players can actually access them. I know we've discussed a little bit about maybe taking that on at a parental level or a Huddle VO parent person or something along those lines to help the coaches out and getting everything uploaded so we have access to it. Is that something you're going to cover, or did I just cover it?
I think more or less you just covered it. We're not sure exactly on the protocol, but the timeline from when the game finishes to when it's up on VO usually is a day and a half to 2 days, just because the download takes 6 hours. It's a pretty lengthy process. And then from VO into Huddle, again, is another lengthy process. You have to have good broadband internet speed if you're not plugged into an Ethernet cord. So if a game from a Sunday is not up on VO or Huddle by a Wednesday, we'd like it there by that day. But if it's not, the patience is key. And especially with consistent weekends, week out, I think Huddle takes a little bit longer. So we want to come up with some kind of plan where a parent per team is really taking this on. And so it doesn't fall on the coach, because in my opinion, this is not a part of the coach's responsibility, but we need to formalize the best way that this is going to work. So that's an ongoing discussion. I think don't need this. Yeah. So that basically takes us to the end. And Juan, are you on the call? Can you see his image there, Josh?
I
Yes,
didn't.
I'm here.
Oh, he is here. What's up, Juan?
Okay,
Hello,
perfect.
everyone. Hi.
Awesome. Before I wrap up the presentation, I just wanted to introduce Juan Arias. He is a coach in the club. He's with an older boys team right now. Next year, he'll be coaching a younger girls team. But at I think we set on not this coming Thursday, but the following Thursday. Juan and I are going to do a dual presentation mainly for the O2s, O3s. The O4s will be invited, and O5s can certainly come if they'd like. But Juan is going to cover a little bit about what he does at the Santa Rosa JC, and I'll let him speak to that right now for a little bit.
Okay. Well, good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. And so, yes, I'm a soccer guy, and I was able to play at Sonoma State University with Josh Sterling a few years ago. And now I'm a dad. I'm a coach. But I also I'm fortunate to be working at Santa Rosa Junior College currently. I've been there since 2008. And so I've been talking to Ben and Josh, and I'm a resource. I told them that I'm happy to help any student that is considering going to the junior college as a senior going into next year as a first-time college student. So I know that a lot of students have plans to go to a four-year college and play D1, play D2. I know that everybody's dream is that. However, I do recommend to have a backup plan in case things don't work out. What I mean by a backup plan is consider having everything in order with the junior college just in case over the summer you come back and you end up playing taking class at the junior college. But anyway, so I'm a resource. I'm happy to help in any possible way. That's what I do at the junior college. I help students just get their student ID number, financial aid, connecting them to the resources and navigating them, helping them navigate through the process. So just, uh, remember that. And if you have any questions about the junior college, also I do recommend for juniors going into their senior year to start the process as well, getting some classes out of the way that, high school students take college classes at the JC for free. So that's something that a lot of students don't know about. And they can, online classes right now are hot, so they can do it from their home. And so just, consider that, when you're going into your senior year and so to get some classes out of the way. So that's all I got to say.
Juan, this is Josh. Hey, if it would be great. Ben shared a little bit about his pathway going D1 and realizing he didn't belong, at that particular school, ended up at Sonoma State. My story is I went to Sonoma State, played 4 years, and pretty straightforward, but you had an interesting one that follows this pathway. And I know that you were a first team all conference because I still remember. So why don't you tell a little bit about your story?
Yes. So I'm a community college player. So what that means is I actually play at Napa Valley College. I played 2 years there, always with the hope and the dream to go to a four-year college. So my story is that I actually didn't have the financial ability or to pay for four-year college. So I went to the junior college in Napa, and I had a great time. It was a good decision for me, and actually I was able to just make the transition to a four-year college. I called Marcus Zimmer. I told him that I wanted to play, and it was a great fit. Just like Ben said, and like Josh, I love Sonoma County. I'm still here. Haven't left, and it was a great. I'm still connected with the soccer community with the Sonoma State, and it was a great fit. And I'm very grateful that I did that. I could have played at that's something I want to mention. I could have played at Sacramento State back then. They were D1. D1 sounds amazing, sounds wonderful, sounds like a great option. But then back then they were like 0-19-1. So it was like, I don't know if I want to play for an 0-19-1 Sacramento State team. I'd rather go to Sonoma State top Division II with good players, and they went to the NCAA Final Four. So that sounded like a better, winning mentality or program. So it's very important to know what you're getting into.
Here, I totally agree. We are so lucky to have Juan's expertise and knowledge in these things. And so just to wrap up for tonight, the aim of the first two presentations was to give a lot of information, almost probably too much, but just get you the wheels spinning and thinking, big general overview of the whole process. Now, over the next 2 months, going into the NorCal showcase and heading into July, we're going to begin to start to narrow the focus with some more targeted webinar type events like these. This all will be communicated to your coaches, your managers, your college person within your team, where the O2s, O3s, O4s, Juan and I will do something in the next 2 weeks. We'll communicate it. Soon after that, we'll do something for almost all the older boys players with TGS. In the meantime, up until that moment, your role as players and parents, if you can support us, is getting those TGS profiles up, working, some of the pieces starting to be completed. And if possible, players start looking at the completed profile and looking at schools and start to get a big net, 10, 20, whatever amount of schools. And then as we get into June, we'll start having a little bit more talk about the communication, heading what coaches are going. The coaches are on your list and the schools are on your list. How does the communication aspect go? And then we'll kind of keep building as we going. So we're wanting to do one of these every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks, maybe, as the timing is narrowed down and we find the right moment. We'll present more information. But a lot of this, we cannot understate your player and parent role in the process. It is vital to everything that we're trying to do. We'll provide information, try to break it down and make it clear as possible, but the spending the time in the TGS, watching the video, creating the highlights, searching for schools, asking the good questions. We're happy to help you and guide you, but a lot of the legwork needs to be done by the players.
And
so
can
that thought, yeah.
One last thing, just so that, because I want to make sure that people have a chance to sort of give feedback if there's areas that are on their mind. I know last time there was the college camps and you addressed that last time. Ben and I have spoke quite a bit over this topic just in a short period. We've sort of broke it down into a few different areas that we think are really important. The technology and profile have been hammered on you guys. The search, we'll go into a little bit deeper on the search part. We sort of just talked briefly about that. We'll have TGS come and we'll speak about communication, like how do I introduce myself? What do I do before an event? How do I talk to the coaches that didn't see me play but came or came and saw me play? And how does the communication part work? And then the last part being like the decision making and how it really happens. And Ben and I spoke just briefly today, and I held Ben's position, many years before Ben, but the same position, and now he's recruiting. And like, how does recruiting really happen? And that's the final stage, and that's basically your list is narrowed. A coach has got to your games enough. There's interest in you, and now there's communication, and now that's where Santa Rosa United and the directors and the coach can go to bat and start to talk to them. That's really where it happens. But the whole process is all about just getting coaches to see you play via currently video with COVID, but at events, and them either liking you or not liking you, or you not liking them, and it could be. And then it's really this last part of the phase, and that can be 4-year, or that could be, as Juan will talk about, the junior college. That's like the 4 sort of areas we're talking about. Are there anything right now, and put it in the chat or just unmute yourself, like, guys, we would love to know more about whatever, finances, whatever, something else that might be on anyone's mind, or maybe you don't know what you don't know, but we want to make sure we're reaching you guys. Sounds like we got it handled, Ben. Take it away.
Yeah. I really appreciate everyone taking close to an hour out of their evening to listen and learn a little bit. Josh is a great resource. Juan's a great resource. I'm a great resource. Ask questions, and we will do our best to answer them. We're always learning as well, and looking forward to continuing in this new role. I'm so happy to be back at Santa Rosa United. It's so fun. I got to spend a lot of time on the pitch tonight, being at games. So it's a lot of fun. I'm glad to be back. So thanks to everybody. Once we get this chopped up, we'll put it on YouTube, send a link out, and onwards and upwards. And it's good luck this weekend versus Placer. I will not be there, but yeah, lots of fun. So thank you, everybody, again. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and we'll leave it at that.